Hi everyone, welcome to another podcast from me and Luke. Still unnamed. We still haven't quite decided on a name yet. We've got a good graphic for FPL Top Guns, but the sort of reception has been a bit 50-50, isn't it, Luke?
Yeah, I still don't know which name I like the best, but that graphic is awesome. So even if we don't use that name, I feel like I'm going to take that graphic and just sort of use it in my everyday life. Maybe just like stick it to my windshield in my car or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it is a pretty impressive one. I think we might have to just go with that name just based on that graphic alone. Um, so we're back. We're gonna try and do these every Monday night. Probably get them out. Well, either Monday night or Tuesday morning. You'll be listening to this, so quite early in the week. So things can change over the week, but it's mostly just to get our thoughts on the game week that's just gone, and just have a bit of a chat about sort of what's been happening in the wonderful world of fantasy football.
Mm.
So it's back. I mean, that's the main thing. I had such a good weekend. I just sat on my sofa. I watched loads of football, chatted to people about football again, constantly checking my points.
It's
Great.
great, isn't it?
Oh, it's so nice. Yeah. But how did we get on? How did did you have a good week, Luke?
I did all right, mate. I did all right. I did better than I suspected I would because not often do I have a good start from the first game week. So to be 20 points, I think it was above average. I don't even know what I got actually. What did I get? 85, yeah. So 20 points above the average, 65 is the average. I'll take that all day long. I'm happy to have that. Um, Pretty happy with my team overall. So yeah, I can't fault it really.
Who did the
Obviously,
business for you then?
sorry,
Who did the business for you?
who did the business? Well, Salah and Sterling obviously did the business. Should have captained Sterling, but hey, yeah. I was playing safe, right? So I couldn't do that. Van Dijk scored me a goal, lovely. Zinchenko, Digne, and Alexander Arnold all returned points. In fact, I actually had 66 points from 6 players. Now, those to start the game week off. So those were 3 Liverpool and 3 City. So I think a lot of people had something similar. 66 from 6 players. I'm sitting there thinking, this is amazing. Like, everyone's just going to return. And then from then on, I had Heaton, King, Jota, Perez, Digne. So King, Jota, Heaton, all 2, Perez 3, and Digne was 6. So he's the only one of the other 5 who got mini points. So I got around 20 points from 5 players after that. So it was to be expected. It nearly works that way. But at the end of the day, yeah, football's back. Love it. Incredibles. Most of the live games were really entertaining, apart from Arsenal. So yeah.
Yeah, VAR.
Oh
Playing
God.
stage again. I watched all the football over the weekend, and I just don't know about VAR. I get like the decisions, like the handball and the offside, like were right, but it
Mm.
didn't feel worth it.
That's exactly it. I don't really have anything against getting them right, and I can understand why it's so important to do it. But it just doesn't feel right. I just don't like having to wait for the confirmation. In the end of the day, it's a spectator sport.
Well, the
I
problem
don't,
is that I forgot that how much it would affect fantasy football, because like when Sterling scored, I jumped
Mhm.
up and was really excited and ran around the house a bit, came back in, and it was getting disallowed, and
Yeah,
it is going to affect our enjoyment, and and like Dendonka, like the amount of people that would have been getting like some cheeky Dendonka points would have seen that come up on the phone, like flashed up, and then a few minutes later it gets taken away. It's like you can't celebrate until
no. I told you that was my nightmare. I told you Dendonka was going to be that boost guy
you did.
who's going to come off the bench, and that's the whole reason why I have to include him in a 4-4-2, despite me preferring to go with a midfielder instead in Callum Robinson or someone like that. And in the first game week, it almost happened to me. So I'm actually thankful for the fact that VAR ruled that one out because he wasn't coming off of my bench, and I thought he's definitely going to come off a few people's bench.
Yeah, yeah.
It already happened game week 1. The guy's going to end up scoring like 5 or 6 goals in the season, I reckon, and
I
just
know.
be virtually
He's
surprised.
going to score early, and it's going to be a band aid, and he's going to be everyone's fourth mid, and
Yeah.
yeah, and we'll refuse to. Well, I'll refuse to get him, and then it'll ruin my season. I can already see it happening. It's like the script's already been
Yeah.
written.
I
Um,
hate this guy already. Don't know anything about him apart from he's got the coolest name ever, but I still
I
don't like
know. So yeah, I
him.
mean, I got 86. I got 1 point more than you. I mean, our teams are pretty similar. I think we've got different goalkeeper. I've got Pope and you've got Heaton. I've got
Mm.
Sigurdsson and Wilson. and Trossard, who didn't even play, which I was not expecting. Other than that, I think we're mostly quite similar. I mean, I can't see us staying that similar for long, because we tend to make moves, fairly quickly. But I think, I know, like, people think that we're like these big Maverick players, but I do. I mean, last year I really went against the grain, like, to start with, and it cost me so much. Like, I had Sigurdsson over Richarlison. I avoided Bernardo Silva, who everyone was getting, because of, like, all the players that loads of people had. I just avoided. Tried to build this really differential team, and it just didn't work. So I've got a squad which I think is quite flexible, and I can move it around, and I don't have to. I don't have to stick with double Liverpool defence all season. I don't have to stick with cheap strikers. So I'm happy to move things around, and there's some players.
And ultimately, it's only been one game week, right? So we can't really make any sweeping judgments, which is
Yeah.
probably going to be a theme about every bit of information we pass throughout. You've always have to have that caveat that it's one game week, but we've got nothing else to work with, So we have to go with that, and we are going to make possibly some sweeping statements. But what else can you do, really, apart from just take it with a pinch of salt, because we've only got 1 week's worth of data. But
I mean there's definitely some learnings, isn't there? Like, I feel like, we're gonna sort of do a review of some of the games, but I think there's certain things I've noticed which I think are going to be sort of recurring things through the year, even after one game week. So
I hope so. I mean, if anyone did a sweeping statement about Leicester when Mahrez and Vardy scored game week 1 and they looked great, they'd have been pretty spot on, because they were like the best players throughout the whole season and they won it. So
what we can do is we can make loads of sweeping statements now and then just edit and cut out the ones that
is a brilliant idea. Go back afterwards when no one's listening or forgotten about us, change it all, and then put it out after 38 weeks, or after we've covered every angle, and then sound like gods. That would be amazing.
That's the secret to a successful podcast. And then next year, think of all the listeners.
Yeah. And then we let them down massively.
Yeah, sounds about right. Okay, well, let's start then. So, I mean, the first game was, I think, one of the games that people were most looking forward to. Everyone thought Liverpool were going to absolutely thrash Norwich, and they did. But from a fantasy perspective, it was a bit of a weird game to watch. I mean, especially with double Liverpool defence, I never felt safe.
No, definitely not. I mean, all the talk before it was that Liverpool's defence had been dodgy in pre-season. I didn't take too much notice of that because it's pre-season, right? And Mingale was in goal for quite a few of those as well. But obviously then we had the Community Shield. Didn't look too great in that either. And then Norwich basically showed us that we probably have got a right to be a little bit concerned. But again, it's one game week, isn't it? So I think over the course of the season, Liverpool double defence is still probably going to be a very good idea. But obviously we're in the nice position where they're both so expensive, so you can just downgrade one at any point if you just feel like hopping off that train. So I'll certainly be staying on it for now. But I think Norwich.
You're staying on even though Alisson's going to be out for maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, certainly is a concern, isn't it? But I just still don't. I mean, they don't allow that many shots, really. I mean, Alisson made 2 saves despite Norwich looking pretty good offensively. So am I overly concerned? I know it will have an effect because obviously keeper. I mean, it's clear that Alisson made an effect when he came in. So for them to lose him, it's no doubt that it's going to have a negative effect. But how much of a negative effect? It probably still makes them worth it, I think, because I honestly think that some of those players like Trent and stuff and Robertson should probably been around 8 million, 7.5, 8 million. So it's more just a proper reflection of their price now, more than anything.
The kind of way I'm looking at it is that they conceded, at home to Norwich, and yet my 2 Liverpool defenders both got 5 and 8 points. And actually, Alexander-Arnold could have scored from that free kick, and he should 1,000% have had an assist for Firmino. Well, I just can't believe he missed that. And then, I think people who have got Robertson are unlucky as well, because he put in some really good balls, and he even had a shot, didn't he, from sort of outside the area, which I was sure was going to go in.
Yeah, he's probably the best player on the day, actually, Robertson. I thought.
Yeah, and the only one of the 3 not to get any attackers. I mean, I just feel like Alexander-Arnold is going to keep getting points because he's taking the corners, he's taking the free kicks. I mean, he scored. I mean, the cross he put in from deep, like, that is just such a weapon that Liverpool have got. Like, teams aren't going to be able to deal with that. Van Dijk is going to be a threat from corners. I mean, how many goals did he get last season? He got 4 goals last season, but I think he's going to get more than that this year. He's already got 1. in the first
You would have
match.
thought so. You would have thought so. Yeah. I mean, Alexander Arnold almost played like a character. A caricature. Is that how you say it? A caricature of himself. You know, those people who do those
Caricature. Caricature.
caricature. There you go.
Caricature.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you for educating me, Doctor Az. It was just exaggerated, wasn't it? We all know that he's not that great defensively, but he had towards the end of last season he had stepped it up in that area, I thought, and we all know that he's pretty damn good offensively. But in this game, it was like he was incredible at like offensively in terms of just banging balls in, having shots, taking free kicks right up front, but defensively was all over the place at times, which was a worry. So it's like we said in the other pod, it's like I like to go on that roller coaster, but genuinely, I'm concerned he's going to get benched, maybe even away to Southampton. I mean, Redmond's not an easy person to play against. I guess we'll see.
I mean, the good thing is his only real replacement would be if he shifted Gomez over, and Gomez had a pretty poor game as well.
Then Matip did all right in the Community Shield, so I think it is going to happen. Maybe not for Southampton. I hope not. Anyway, but it just depends how often it's going to happen. I'm still happy to ride it because he could have come out of that game with 20 points or something.
Yeah.
It's just bad. So I'll keep riding it for now. I think Liverpool, we all knew they were pretty good and we had a slight concern defensively and that was shown to be the case. But for me, I really took out of it was that Norwich are very interesting, I think, fantasy-wise for a number of reasons now. It's like they're clearly not going to keep any clean sheets, really. But they're certainly going to go for it in games, which usually makes for good fantasy games when they're involved because they're either going to get tanked or score points themselves. And with Pukki, I just think we've got a player there that is going to basically get bonus points nearly every time he scores, which proved to be the case. We almost had the perfect trial run for this. Against Liverpool, the best defence at home, in a game no one gave them any chance for. And they conceded 4, and he still got a bonus point off of his one goal.
Yeah,
I think every game he plays, Norwich are probably going to concede, so they're not going to be getting much bonus at the back probably. And the team, the team he's playing against, they're really offensive. So you'd like to think they'll probably get some goals, and Pukki's probably going to be involved in them. So I don't think you'll be seeing many 4-point goals for him. I think it's going to be added with a 1, like it was now, a 2, or even a 3. So I guess it's just how many goals you put him down for over the season. But he scored 29 last season. So let's say we chop it. Put a third of it. Say he gets 10. Maybe you put him down for that, which could be generous. I don't know, or it could go the other way. But 4 points per goal, it's probably going to be more like 5, 6, 7. I think each time. And if you can add maybe an assist or 2 into that, and it's not even guaranteed on the penalties thing because I think Vranic was taking them. He seems to be like the number 1 potentially, but I know a Norwich fan, and he says that he thinks Pukki will be on them because it's been a bit up in the air.
What I like about him is, and this is probably the first year in about the last 5 or 6 years that I haven't started with a promoted striker. And I've always liked promoted strikers because often the promoted team will build their whole team around that striker. So if you think about Mitrovic last year, I started with Mitrovic. He did really, really well until Fulham just went completely under. But he started well because they literally played to him. Like he was their strategy. He was their best player in the team. They tried to get the ball to him as much as possible. I think he got 2 goals against Burnley in one game, and got 3 bonus, and that really pushed him up the rankings. I feel like Pukki could be that similar type of player. Like that's what they do. They just get the ball to him, and he's a menace. Like he gets it, and I mean the commentators were saying it in the match. They're saying like he's not the best player to watch, but like he just.
He's intelligent.
He's very intelligent. He just creates things out of kind of nothing. So I think if the defence is sleeping, he's going to be in.
And I think the game favours those kind of strikers in terms of bonus points because I think Aubameyang's a good example of this. He plays for Arsenal, who barely kept any clean sheets last season. So because of that factor and the fact that he's not really involved in the game all that much, he just does his job particularly well. Was obviously I don't pretend to be a bonus master by any means, but essentially you get rewarded for certain actions, as everyone knows. And as a striker, it's taking shots on target and on goal is generally like well rewarded. And like Aubameyang won't touch the ball much. He doesn't have much potential to lose points by actually being involved, like trying to take people on and messing up. Like Salah obviously doesn't get much because he loses the ball quite often, gets dispossessed, has shots off target, whereas Aubameyang is more clinical in the small chances that he has. And I think the same will be of Pukki, where he won't be involved too much in the game, but when he gets it, he'll probably be having a shot, and more often than not, it's on target or a decent effort. So he's got less chance to lose it. And I just think everything seems to be a perfect storm at the moment. again, I go back to the sweeping statement we said at the beginning, but at the moment, off the evidence we've got, it looks like he could be a real shout. It's obviously the fixtures that are just really bad, but part of me just thinks I'm just going to ignore that, and we'll get to it at the end, but he's possibly my move for the week to come in for Josh King, but we'll see.
Yeah, because I mean he's got Newcastle at home, this week, which I think is a great fixture because they only lost 1-0 to Newcastle, but there's already some discontent about Bruce's tactics, isn't there? Because he brought on like a right winger who went into midfield and no one knew what they were doing in the team, and I just think they're going to get hammered by teams, Newcastle, and Norwich could get a couple of them. Then they got Chelsea, then they got West Ham, then they got City. So it is a real kind of mixed bag. But I wouldn't be surprised if Norwich scored in most of those games, if not all of them.
Well, Chelsea just conceded 4, and West Ham just conceded 5. Now, I know the opponents play a part in that, but at least it shows that the defences can be breached. So, I'm tempted to go with it, really am. I don't think there was too much else to take out from that game, really. Firmino looked good, but will he be good a fantasy option? Possibly. He'll probably tick over, but seems to be a waste of a spot. And then Buendia looked pretty good. He'll be involved in a few things, but...
Love that you're focusing on Norwich. Not even Mane's back. I'm not worried about it.
That is a good point, actually. Mane's back. I totally forgot about that. He looked good when he came on as well.
He did, didn't he? Yeah. It'd be nice if he creates a like he did last year, like creates another kind of reason for people to make a switch from Salah to Mane to free up some money. Because if he's going to play like that, like all the time, he's going to sort of pick up where he left last season. If he can do that, then I think his home form out last season was absolutely outrageous. So if he can get back to that, then maybe he can rival Salah.
Yeah, and if he's on the last man taking shots and Salah's losing bonus, then I'm happy to captain Mane at home instead. So we'll see how it pans out.
Exactly. Well, let's switch over to the other title contenders this year. So City won 5-0 against West Ham. I watched it. Did you see it?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, first half they weren't great, I didn't think, and then second half they just like Sterling. Well, I mean, actually no, they were pretty good in the first half. Sterling wasn't that good in the first half, and it kind of looked like he was going to blank. And then the second half, he just went completely mad.
He did indeed, and I love him for that.
So do I. I mean, he should have had 4, if not for the fingernails breadth of an offside.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think I think someone was asking the scout or the fantasy football scout put out a post saying questions for next week, and I saw Doug Applebonker say who's probably been the unluckiest player this week or some sort of take like that, and straight to my mind that Sterling actually popped up despite him being possible. Was he the highest scorer? He might have been the highest scorer. But I honestly think he could have got 6. It was mad. 5 or 6 goals. He could have been involved. I mean, he could have taken the penalty because Aguero decided he was going to take it, but he was on to the hat-trick. He had the disallowed goal, which I know VAR, it technically is a disallowed goal, but it still feels unlucky, if you know what I mean. So I just feel like, he is possibly a candidate for that, despite obviously doing so well.
I know. I think people who haven't got him, which he's owned by 36%, so he's not even. Salah's owned by 44. I don't know what Kane. He's probably around the same as Kane, but I just think if you haven't got Sterling, you've got a decision to make because he's got Spurs at home, so you wouldn't really expect him to go mad in that game, but you've got to be thinking about how you're going to get him in.
Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't have even considered a team without him, to be honest. Every draft I've had in Sky and FPL and everything had him, because I was just convinced he's probably going to be the top goal scorer this season. So
he wasn't in my early
point scorer, I should say.
I had De Bruyne over him, and I was it's one of those ones where you can try and just be a bit clever, can't you? You think, I'll save a bit of money with De Bruyne, but I mean, he just is worth the money. He's just worth the 12 million. He's the best player in the best team.
Yeah, and he's doing it consistently, but it's just more. Yeah, it's more about the fact that it's the team, and as Mara showed, virtually any player, and why I'd even considered Bilba, was any player who's in that team and in the front line has a massive chance of scoring ridiculous amount of points every week. So they just spank teams. And if Sterling's going to constantly be in the team, then he's going to get me loads of points. And the same for Jesus came in and actually looked like he could score quite a lot of points. Aguero comes in, starts scoring points. It's just going to happen all the time, man. They're just too good.
Yeah, but I mean, Bernardo Silva had such a good game, didn't he? Just like you were saying, like.
Hey, listen, we had an argument about whether he'd be a good an option, not whether he would play or not. And you know for a fact you had him down for a starting berth. Don't give me that.
I can't. I was shocked when he didn't play, but I did have a little celebration.
Well, it's since come out that I mean, did you see his quote that he's got a little problem, but it's not a problem, essentially?
Oh,
So
really? No, I didn't see that.
yeah, so he basically said, Pep basically said that Mahrez is great, and now Bilva has to look at Mahrez and say, "Wow,
Yeah, I
we've got a
saw
player. I've
that
got to
one.
work harder." And then underneath, just straight after that, he says Bilva's got a little bit of a problem, a muscle problem or something, but it's not really a problem. He's okay. He's fine. So for me, I think he's kind of done a clever tactic there. If Bilva just wasn't fit to play the game, he played Mahrez, and then he was obviously amazing, and now he's just used that and gone, yeah. So now Bilva's got to work to get in the team because Mahrez was amazing. That's my feel to that, how he addressed that situation, rather
Yeah,
than Mahrez was just straight in line to play because Bilva played the Community Shield and didn't do anything wrong. So I think it's more that. But on
interesting.
the on
So
on the
you'd hold
Mahrez,
you'd hold Silver then, would you, if you had him?
I don't, the thing is, after those comments and Mahrez' performance, I mean, how unlucky can you get as Bilva? Mahrez comes in and puts on that performance and
I
gets 2
know.
assists.
Well, you're
So,
not unlucky. I mean, Mahrez is brilliant.
well, he is, yeah, and that's the worry, isn't it? And it's like we sit here and think, what's Pep doing? What's going on? Why doesn't he play Sane? He's absolutely amazing. You know, he plays when he should be playing every single game. And the same could be argued for Mahrez for last season. I started last season with Mahrez, and I think a lot of people did because they thought he was going to be their main man out there, and he just didn't get a look in.
Yeah,
So I just come back to it. Whoever's playing for City is a fantastic option. And if Mahrez gets the games, then I have no doubt he will also be an amazing option, especially at that price. Um, so if it's genuine, if Bilva now has to work to get back in the team, Mahrez could be a really good short-term punt. I know people will maybe question that, but at 8.5 million, I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to chalk out the points because...
yeah. Well, if I had Bernardo Silva, I know the move I'd be making this week. And
Really? Would you do
yeah,
that?
I mean, are we done with City? Is there anything else to say? I mean, West Ham were just absolutely terrible, weren't they? I mean,
Yeah, Haller looked good.
unlike Burnley winning 3-0. I've got to get
Yeah.
these in. I've got to get these in now because I'm not going to have many other opportunities this year to gloat a bit, especially at the end of the season when Bernardo Silva's top point scorer and West Ham have finished fourth and Burnley relegated. You know.
Hey,
So,
it was City, man. It's going to happen to anyone. I thought Haller looked really tasty in the first few minutes, and they did all right to begin with. But what can you do? It's City. That's my argument.
Wilshere was appalling. I don't know why he started Wilshere in that game.
Maybe just wanted some ball retention, but that's not really what you're going to do against City, is it? You
No,
can't retain
they
the ball
just weren't.
against them.
They just were not solid, even slightly. Like they just looked like every time City had the ball, they were just going to score. It was, yeah. If I was Pellegrini, I would not be happy with that performance. So yeah, I don't think any. I think yeah, Haller maybe, but other than that, I'm not looking at any of their players for the foreseeable future. Just see how they recover
No.
from that loss, really. But I'll tell you what I would do if I had Bernardo Silva. I probably would be selling him this week. And I know it's only 1 week and it feels a bit knee jerky, but I mean, I've never liked him anyway. So if I had him, I'd definitely take him.
Well, off the back of the information that he might have an injury, I would say yes now, but otherwise I would have said no. And then Mahrez' performance, I would have said no. But yeah, if he has got a slight injury and Mahrez has put that performance in, I would be worried whether he start next week. But to be honest, he can play centre midfield and it's a bigger game. So people might argue in the bigger game, does he go for the more consistent Bilba if he is fit? There's always the chance, right? It's Pep.
Yeah, but then you're playing Bernardo Silva in midfield, and he's not a very good option there.
Well, I mean, he might just sack off Mahrez. I doubt he will, but he could do just because he's playing against Spurs and he thinks Bilba will offer more.
Yeah, you could be right. Well, anyway, I'll tell you who I'll be getting in. And brings us to our other great performance of the week. United against Chelsea. I mean, wow. they were electric, weren't they? And I mean, Martial up front, 7.5 million. You've got to be thinking about him, right?
It's what I think we said it on the last one for James at 6 million. If they're starting and they're up front in those front three positions, and obviously Martial's included that at those prices, you have to be interested. And Martial obviously is playing central number 9, it appears. So yeah, He scored a goal against Chelsea. They've got some really good games. And he has been our top goal scorer previously. He's obviously got bags of potential, Martial. It's just part of the pessimist of me of Man United just thinks that, I mean, the first half we were pretty awful. And that game was never a 4-0, really. Chelsea just gave up, or, the defenders just popped at Asda like at half time or something, and then got on the WKD blue or something because they were awful. So I don't know how much to read into that, really, because as a fan, I feel like my judgment's probably skewed a bit. But yeah, as an FPL pick, Martial up front, number 9, yeah, why not? Go for it. But in terms of us being 4-0 better than Chelsea or other teams, I'm not sure.
You weren't 4-0 better than Chelsea, but I think looking at the pace that United have now, like it's gonna actually a game like Chelsea is probably ideal because they try and push up a bit in attack and you just counter them. And when United do play like a Burnley or something, it'd be interesting to see kind of how they struggle, how they break them down. I mean, they might struggle if Pogba goes because he looks key to kind of unlocking things.
Yeah, and Pogba was awful in the first half, really. He didn't really do anything. He was anonymous. And then suddenly when the game started getting stretched, he obviously did the Pogba passes that not many players can do over the top, which was great. But in the first half, he was kind of a bit of a passenger. He wasn't really doing much, and Chelsea controlled a lot of the ball, I thought. So I don't think that much has changed from Man United. We have seen this before from them. We just look a little bit more solid in defence.
I don't agree. I think I've seen a lot in that game, and I think Martial at 7.5 million in midfield playing as an out of position striker. Solskjaer's comment saying, the goal he scored was perfect. He doesn't want him cutting in from the wing anymore. He wants him in the box on the end of those.
I can't argue with the Martial pick. I would just say that, first of all, we said about Chelsea, didn't we? And I said I was down on them, and I thought their squad looked pretty poor. And to be honest, they were pretty awful. I mean, he's playing Barkley on the left wing.
Oh, I know. I mean, the lineup was abysmal, really.
Yeah, and Pedro was their best player, I thought. He lost the ball a few times, but he tried consistently and he did his best. I thought he was pretty good. And Emerson looked okay at left back, had a few shots. I mean, Tammy hit the post early on and Emerson had a chance as well. And if they'd have scored then, it could have been totally different. My only real take from the game in terms of Man United was that Maguire and Wan-Bissaka definitely made us a lot more solid. Wan-Bissaka was excellent defensively. Maguire did a good job. And Martial playing up front is definitely interesting. Apart from that, I don't think there was too much to take away because it's still only one game. And Chelsea, I thought, were just dreadful in the second half. They just didn't really do anything. It's like after they didn't score, they just didn't really know what to do. And their teams were just such a mismatch, really. I mean, there's just so many players that haven't really even played with each other. Zuma looked out of place, everything. Yeah, it's just Christensen. I still don't really rate Christensen. I think he can pass, but
nor do I. I've never really understood it. He was player of the season a few years ago. I think I slated him once on the Scoutcast, and I got a load of abuse. But I've just not really got. I mean, if you can't even get in the team ahead of Louise last year.
Louise is all right, man. Louise is a good player. I think he gets stick because of the mistakes he makes. But the guy's like Brazil and PSG and everything, and he's got class. He's a good player.
He's not. he's a liability. He's gonna be a rubbish for Arsenal. Let me tell you. I'll tell you that right now. He's going to
improve Arsenal tenfold.
I don't think he will. I think he's got so many mistakes in him.
It's going to be tricky with Arsenal because he's going to be playing next to a clown probably, as usual, because they're just about all clowns, unless Holding just comes back and is actually good. So it's going to struggle because I think Louise does need that like rock solid person next to him. But I still think Louise is 10 times better than anything they've got at centre back. You can't not improve them for me.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they kept a clean sheet, and we'll move on to Arsenal now. I mean, they kept a clean sheet against Newcastle. Did I say to you last time that I was going to put a bet on Arsenal to concede in every match?
I don't think you did on the pod, but
I didn't do it.
You said that they were going to be woeful in the back.
Yeah. I mean, typical. If I put that bet on, I would have lost it on the first week. But I mean, I watched that game as well, and I mean, I looked at the Arsenal lineup, and I was like, "You've spent how much money on players?" And the team, I mean, got Callum Chambers in defence. You've got what do they have, like Mkhitaryan, Reece Nielsen, and
do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when I was playing Football Manager and I've been playing friendlies and I just put all these people in, just whoever's fit on 100% condition, and just kept
Yeah.
it in like autoplay. And then by accident, when I'm not paying attention, it was the first game of the season, and I just went with my pre-season team by accident. And then I'm like, shit, as soon as I pressed the button, what have I done? That's what it felt like.
You want
But
to be like Ultimate Team, you know, when you get all your bronze players and you stick him in, but then you luckily get like a Aubameyang up front. So you've got him and then a load of like weird like Eastern European players that you've never heard of.
yeah, I was really uneasy because I had Aubameyang as my Sky captain for that day as well, and I was thinking, oh, surely, because it was the standout pick on that day for the captain, because obviously it just goes by game day. So Arsenal Newcastle was the best fixture, and I saw the lineup. I was like, God, he's going to do well to get a goal here, but thankfully he did, because it's Aubameyang, and that's what he does. He still manages to do it somehow. I thought Mkhitaryan was dreadful during that game.
It's awful. He's just completely lost it, isn't he, from when he was at Dortmund?
He has, and I'm really scathing of people like that, like him, Ozil, people like that, because generally they're my favourite kind of players. Those sort of tricky, creative number 10s, really. But I know in modern age, we don't even have number 10s anymore. They're either forced to play out wide or in a 3 in midfield or something. Sadly, David Silva's basically the only one who's managed to keep it up, and even he has to play in the 3. And it's just like, I love watching them play, but there's just not really a place for them in football anymore. They just get brushed off the ball too easy, and they just seem to be all over the place. Like, there's a whole bunch of them. I mean, 2 of them are at Arsenal with Ozil and Mkhitaryan, but I am secretly rooting for them to do really well because I just love them as players when they're on the game. But it's just when it's that bad, you just can't put up with it.
What's amazing though is you think it's Arsenal, like Arsenal throughout the years. You think of all the fantasy players they've had for our teams, Fabregas, you know, Van Persie, you know, Henry, all these amazing players. You look at that team against Newcastle, game week 1, and apart from Aubameyang, there's not a single player that I would go anywhere near for my team. And I think their team against Burnley is going to be completely different because they're probably going to bring in Pepe, probably going to put Lacazette back up front. They might bring in
yeah, it's not a fair game to judge them on, really, is it?
No, I mean, but they did well. I mean, they did well to get a win because I don't think last year or even a couple of years ago they would have ground out that 1-0.
Probably not. You're probably right. I think the bench is the best bench Arsenal have had in probably 15 years.
Yeah.
Like David Luiz, Pepe, Lacazette. It was mad. It was really good. So yeah, I'm hopeful for the game against Burnley to see what they've got, because
I've got Pope in goal.
Well, he'll still make a bunch of saves as usual, probably. But Pepe, when he came on, I don't know if you watched it, but we've only got a little bit of time at the end. But he literally just went up and sat in the penalty area pretty much. And Aubameyang went out to the right, if anything. It seemed that way anyway. It's like the guy clearly, I don't know if it's just because he wanted to get himself a debut goal or whatnot, maybe. But he certainly wants to keep an eye on if he's going to be that high up the pitch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. Well, speaking about good benches, just go for a completely different type of team now. I mean, the performance of apart from City, I think performance of the week. Well, actually, there was quite a few kind of stand-up performances, wasn't there? I mean, United, City, but Brighton 3-0 away from home at Watford.
Talk me through it.
Oh, I mean, you know, Potter's come in. He's had some ideas, and they seem to have paid off. I mean, Watford were dreadful. Like I mean, look at Delafeu getting subbed. Did he get subbed at half time?
Yeah, I don't think he was fit, was he? I've only seen the match of the day highlights on that one, so I can't comment. But he had a muscle injury going into it, so I think they just pushed him back too soon.
Yeah, well, I've read a few match reports as well, and he apparently just wasn't doing any tracking back at all. Like he was just leaving Firmino, just completely isolated. I mean, you don't play Delafeu on the wing; you play him up front.
No, it worked last season playing him up top. Is that where they played him then, on the wing?
Yeah, they put him on the left wing because they played Gray and Deeney up front.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it worked last season playing him up top, and he looked like a real player in some games. So I'm not sure why he would do that.
And all they tried to do was just lump balls into the box. And we had 3 centre backs, like 3 really good centre backs. I mean, Dan Burton. I was saying to you,
isn't he 9'8"?
Something like that. Maybe even 9'10". He's an absolute tank of a bloke, and it's what I was saying. I'm amazed no one tried to snap him up because I think he's a really good player. He got man of the match as well.
Okay.
So defensively, I think with 3 at the back, Brighton should be fairly decent. I mean, Montoya's playing at wing back. which I think
You called him out, didn't you?
called
I
him
saw him
out.
put a few crosses in. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
and
looked all
he got some bonus. And then you look at Brighton's bench. I mean, Trossard didn't play, which was a bit upsetting. I
It's
think,
mad.
yeah, Potter's come out and said he was a bit unlucky not to start, but he went for Gross because Gross has had the experience and it was a difficult away game and all that. So I'm immediately thinking, oh God, if he's going to bench, Trossard in difficult games
Mm.
like Watford, then what
Hasn't he
he's
got a rep for rotating as well?
yeah, he has. And I mean the strength Brighton have now, like genuinely the bench Brighton had. You know,
Steady, steady.
no, we talk about Arsenal's bench, but Florian Andone.
Yeah,
No,
how can I
but
forget?
I mean, look at the bench. 20 million centre back on the bench. You've got Trossard, 20 million. You've got Andone. He's got options, and it's not just options to bring off the bench. There's options to start with as well. So, although I'm really happy that Brighton got off to a win, it's definitely making me a bit nervous about Trossard because I mean I never thought he was going to be benched in that game. Yeah, two successive starts just before the season started in pre-season, and then
Mm.
benched. So, yeah,
No, I've been bigging him up to loads of people and got work colleagues who ask me for tips and stuff. I don't know why they're asking me for tips, but they're asking for tips, and I say, yeah, trust. When a work colleague presents their team and straight away you see Kante in midfield and all the usual things, and you just have to turn around to them and go, yeah, mate, looks all right, because if you start actually taking it seriously and telling them about this and that, they start coming up with all this crap back that you just like, I can't be bothered with it, because they're just not
yeah,
listening really. They don't really know what they're talking about. It's like, yeah, I thought he'd be a good pick because XYZ reason. You're just sitting there thinking he's not even going to start. And then you might come back with that, well, the rumours are he might not start because they've got this person, and they just go straight ahead, oh, right, oh, yeah, and they just carry on. It's just like, yeah, Kante's a great pick, crack on. But in a lot of those teams, I did say to them, well, you sort of only got a 6 because they've usually got a 5, a 5.5, or a 6 million mid, or 2 or 3 of them even. And I'm just like, oh, Trossard could be a shout. And then straight away, about 5 people messaged me, you thought you said Trossard would be a good
yeah, I
player.
know. Well, the 6 million mark, there are quite a few players. Like Barkley. There's
No, there's not Barkley. Not.
Kebelos. There's the one you like, Robinson.
Yeah.
There's players around the 6 million. I mean, one player that I like, it could be in Dombele.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he scored a goal, right? And he looked pretty good.
He had a couple of shots. He scored a goal from, was it just outside the penalty area, or it was
Yeah, I
close
think it was just
close to the
outside.
penalty area. Um, 6 million is, again, it's one game, but he doesn't. I thought he was going to be more deep lying than he was, and he did get forward a fair bit.
I think that's just because Villa slowly drops further and further back, and obviously Spurs at home panicking to score a goal. I don't think he'll. I mean, he is more box to box, so maybe, but again, off of one game and Villa, I think for stats, I looked at it, something like the top 10 people for the whole week who had the most passes in the final third, and Spurs had something like 7 or 8 of the players. So I think he's more advanced because the whole team is so pushed up because they just started to sit further back and back. So I think it's probably more a little bit to do with that, but he is box to box, so you never know. I guess it depends who they play alongside him. I mean, they played Winks, and did anyone else play in centre midfield with him? Was it
uh,
Sissoko, wasn't it?
yeah, Suzuka, yeah.
So if they're going to be playing Dyer in a game, for example, with him, then I'd expect in those games he'd be more advanced. But we'll see.
Well, I guess we should probably talk about Kane. I guess people want to know our views on Kane. I think he was lucky. I mean, there were 2 great finishes, but I think it's exactly what we were saying last week. Like he still is getting the ball in areas where I don't want him to be getting it. He's still playing too deep for me.
Yeah, and I mean, for 80 something minutes or whatever it was looking how I thought the game might go. The Villa might frustrate him, and Kane wouldn't get too much, wouldn't get a sausage, but there he was. I mean, if there's any game you're going to pick out for Kane to do well, and you would have, home first game of the season to a promoted side, you'd expect a return for your 11 million striker there.
Well, this is it. We all everyone's like saying, "Oh, we need to like break our teams to get Kane." We all knew Kane was going to get 10 points against Villa.
Yeah,
Like that was just never. It was never not going to happen.
no. Fair play if you got him. It doesn't tempt me still at all at this moment because, Salah and Sterling still returned a lot, still great as captains. So for me, being an 11 million striker, it's not, you have to score braces and hat tricks, pretty much every week or every other week to gain my interest now, because I just don't feel like the position's that good anymore in fantasy football compared to the value you can get elsewhere. So yeah, by all means, Kane could do that. And if that starts happening, then I'll have to strongly consider it. But I'm not going to panic on it. Do you know what I mean? Is there a way to City next
Away
week?
to City next. I mean, the thing is, though, I mean, to me, the reason not to get him is that I look at captaincy and I think I'm probably going to give it to either Salah or Sterling every week. Because those to me two seem the strongest option. But then in game week 3, Spurs do have Newcastle at home, and Liverpool have got Arsenal, and City have got Bournemouth. So they're still good games for Liverpool and City. But
I think the captain argument is a good one. And to be honest, I think people won't want to hear this, but it's basically, I think if you didn't have Salah and you rotate Sterling and Kane, who are obviously less money, Sterling's less than Salah, I mean, and obviously Kane's less than both of them. Then it makes more sense because their fixtures worked out really nice. I did look at teams without Salah, and they had really nice captains going back and forwards. And obviously, my more Maverick self was considering doing that. But I always said from the start, I'm considering captain Sterling nearly every game. So I think he's going to be a top scorer. So do you even want your Salahs and your people in your team? But I've played safe, so I've decided to do it. But I still think there is an argument that you could, if you were considering going out with Salah, then Kane becomes more enticing.
Yeah,
because of the rotation with Sterling more than anything. But to have all three, it worked this week, but you're really relying on those three to return, for it to really work out. And if Kane blanks next week and then you're all 5 million midfielders and stuff or whatever you've got to compensate, aren't going to be returning regularly.
You say that. I mean, I used, because I did have a couple of teams with Kane, before this started. I was thinking about how I could kind of get him in. But instead I used the money to strengthen my defence. So, I wouldn't have been able to have Van Dijk and Zinchenko if I'd had Kane. And they got 8 and 6 points. So would the players that I'd had, the cheap defenders, have got that many points? I don't know. Like, as long as my kind of expensive defence matches what Kane's doing, and I think betters it, because, it's a couple of players compared to one. I think it's still the right decision to not go with him and make sure the rest of your team is, because otherwise you're just completely reliant on 3 players every week.
Yeah, and I think it more comes into it is the teams. I mean, we can go into virtually every match, right? And we can sit here and think, well, City are going to win that match and Liverpool are going to win that match. I don't think there's pretty much, apart from playing each other, there's few games in the league where I don't sit here and think they're going to win. Even away to Chelsea, United, Arsenal, I still think they're favourites to win it. Doesn't matter, like now, they're so dominant. So I'm confident they're always going to do well and get goals. Now, Spurs nearly lost to Villa. Let's not get it right. They were not far off. They had a blinding couple of 10, 15 minutes and Kane was getting nothing. And that's at home to Villa. Now, that will happen a lot throughout the season, a lot more than it will to City and Liverpool anyway, for my money. So for that reason, I don't have as much faith in Spurs. I still think Kane, so that's why I won't go for him. Kane's shot volume was absolutely incredible. So that's one thing I would say as a positive for him, is the fact that he was taking a lot of shots, which is always a good sign with Kane, because he's probably one of the best strikers of the ball in the league, probably the best, firing off. So as long as he's doing that, then you're always going to be in a chance for goals. But I think, as I said, it's more to do with the fact that Spurs were so high up the pitch and Villa just let him come further and further up. And will that continue? Maybe, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I mean, I think, if he gets a goal against City and then he's going into Newcastle, let's say Newcastle get absolutely battered by Norwich, it is certainly going to, and we've got 2 free transfers because, well, I mean, if we were decided to bank one, I think it does lead to the question of, should we be reshaping our teams to get him in. But I think for now the wise thing to do is just to wait.
And if someone like McGinn scores again, then it's like becomes enablers, right? And then that's when it's like, right, okay, 2 moves. You can get in someone who's scoring every week for 5.5 and get Kane in, then maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
It looks tidy. He looked good.
Yeah. So I think they're the kind of the main games. I mean, from the other fixtures, is there anyone that kind of stood out for you? Any performances? Any teams?
Well, those were the ones on live TV, so they're the ones I can give the most opinion on, I feel, because I don't feel Match of the Day really gives you, as much as you need. But, I mean, we picked out Sheffield United as possibly being a good little team, and I don't think many people expected Bournemouth to not win that match. Going by Twitter anyway, everyone's got Wilson, Fraser, King, And that's, I said at the beginning, the only real disappointment I have for myself is the fact that I didn't really fully think Bournemouth were going to do that well, but the games were so good. I thought, well, that's just my opinion, and on paper they should do well. And obviously, there were great picks last season, so I should cover it in some way. But I don't want to spend that much money on them as I don't fully trust them. So I'll go with King as cover, and I shouldn't have done that really. I know it's only one game, so next week he could obviously score against Villa and do well, and I may still give him that game. But I just didn't like the idea of King anyway, really, because he's not what I consider a striker, and it's just like,
no, that's the problem. Is you've got that's where I really didn't want King, because I just kind of felt like it was just coverage. Like, I don't particularly like him as an FPL player. He's not. I want players in my team who I get excited about, and especially like midfielders and forwards. You want a player in your team who you feel like could score, 10, 15 points. I mean, King does all right. Like, he's had quite consistent seasons where he scored sort of 10 and more goals.
He has been a good pick. So that was, it's so many positive and negatives. You're weighing it all up, right? And I'll just sit there, right? They've got 2 good games. So why am I trying to be clever with Pookie, who I actually preferred as a player going in? But I thought they put away to Liverpool. So is it me just being maverick again, being stupid, and just go with the blanket pick? In this case, it didn't really work out, which feels annoying. But if you go that way most of the time during the season, you'll probably come out better if you play the safe option. But
going forward, there doesn't seem to be any reason to go with King over Pukki. Like, I would be really tempted to make that move this week if I had King.
Well, I am definitely tempted. Definitely tempted. It's just, I think he had unexpected goals of 0.06. King did at the week.
Yeah.
So that doesn't fill me with confidence. But we were talking about Sheffield United, and my boy Callum Robinson, he didn't score, but he got man of the match in the Sky game.
Nice.
He had, I don't know if you saw, he just looks a really good player. He's turning on the ball in space, firing shots off. He was hassling. I was reading the BBC news feed as well, where it's like Robinson's hassling him, Bob's causing all sorts of problems. He was a real handful. And then obviously the factor that people didn't really like was the fact that he might be rotatable, but he gets 90 minutes and McGoldrick starts and comes off. And they brought 2 strikers on, and not at any point did he get subbed.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, it looks really good for him. I think Sheffield United in general were quite impressive, and I thought, attacking wise, they were a lot more attacking than I thought they'd be, because you think, the team coming up for the Championship with the best defensive record, you kind of feel like maybe, especially away at Bournemouth, you think maybe the the kind of decision would be to kind of sit tight and not concede, but they went for it.
I'm quietly confident he will get some points in the next few weeks. I'm quietly confident.
Yeah, I think he's a strong pick. I mean, for 5.5 as well. I mean, that's like what we were saying. Like, you need what, a goal or an assist every couple of games, and he'll just to tick him over, and then you'll be happy.
Indeed, definitely has. Right, we need to cover the games, I guess, a little bit. How long have we been going for? How long have we been going?
About 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
Okay, we can fit it in. We can fit it in.
Well, Leicester. I want to talk about Leicester, because Leicester. If we're saying about how amazed we were with Sheffield United, I think disappointment with Leicester sums it up. Because I mean, pretty much every squad I've seen has got a Leicester player. Either Perez, Vardy, Tielemans. All of these players were kind of really tipping them. I'm tipping them for top 6. They've spent loads of money. Like they should be. They should be returning already, especially against Wolves, who went off and did some Europa stuff. So Perez was really disappointing. He's been. So
it's the only game I haven't seen anything from, because I haven't seen Match of the Day 2, and obviously it was aired at the same time as the Arsenal game. So I've seen a bit of every other game apart from that one. So I'm pretty much blind as to what went on the Leicester Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've been reading match reports. Jota really wasteful throughout for Wolves. Had a couple of good chances. Got subbed early. Got subbed pretty much exactly the same time as Perez as well. So I lost both my strikers.
I had both them as well.
And you both as well, yeah. And Perez has done like an apology on Twitter saying he wasn't very good. So he clearly knows.
Has he?
He didn't do very well. Yeah, he's just said, wasn't my
too
best
right
day.
too, the bastard.
Best, blah blah blah. So yeah, I mean, of all the games this week, I was not expecting that game to be 0-0.
No, and I've got a little story about that actually, because my mate put on a bet at the beginning of the season. You can do these season-long bet things, and he put on, I don't know, a tenner, and he was due to win something like $3,500. And basically, his bet was Leicester, any game they're involved in, to be over 0.5 goals throughout the whole season, and the Wolves, any game they're involved in, to be over 0.5 goals for the whole season. So there just has to be a goal in any game that either of those two play.
Yeah.
One, they both get a 0-0 versus each other, and the bet's done already. I mean, it's only a tenner, but I just found that hilarious that he's sort of gone to 38 games and it's just straight away. No.
That's like my my Arsenal bet, but I didn't put it on. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that happens to them both in the first match.
Yeah,
as well. Oh god.
I want to touch on just two things on Leicester really. One, we said about it before. You're going to have to be patient with Perez. It's going to be blanks. He's not going to do much else apart from score. He's been brought in to get goals. It wasn't working, and he's obviously was always going to be one of the candidates to get hooked first. He's not going to hook Vardy. You wouldn't have thought. Maddison is not going to get hooked. You wouldn't have thought either. So when you're struggling for goals and you haven't scored, it's just obvious that it goes to the new man who's, doesn't really offer too much more than goals, I wouldn't have thought. So, I mean, we all kind of knew that before. So for me, I'll just continue to be patient for him, because I think it may be one of those ones where it's blank brace, So I'll sit back on him for now. I'm not worried about that. And then my man Pereira, who I said about getting attacking returns.
I know.
I didn't see the game, but he again, max bonus for him.
You should have started with him.
I know.
You wimped out with that.
Honestly, I know everyone's had all these drafts, right? But I had one draft with Pereira in instead of Digne, with Sterling as captain because I had no Salah, and Kane in because I know we've all had drafts, so I can't even talk about it. But I looked back at it because I took screenshots of it, and I looked at it, and it would have scored 118 points. I was like, for God's sake, should have done that.
If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
Well, considering your genetic makeup, mate, there's all sorts of issues.
No, I mean, you were talking up Pereira last week. Yeah, it's just a shame when you tipped him, because I mean, I didn't rate him at all, and I thought particularly with Maguire going defensively, Leicester was struggle. I never thought they would not keep it. I never thought they'd not score against Wolves, and B, keep a clean sheet against Wolves. I thought that would be like 3-3 that game. So, yeah,
I must admit, I thought it would come through an attacking return rather than max bonus, but he has always been good on the bonus.
Yeah.
So I just think he's a great all-round pick for fantasy. You've always got so many avenues that you could potentially get points from, and I do think clean sheets will be pretty rare in their games in general. It just happened to be that one, so it's that same thing.
Well, it could be another reason why, to kind of support going forward at the back. And, I mean, obviously it's one game, but in the future, if Perez continues to underperform, then switching Perez to Pereira and changing your formation up might work.
Yeah, I'm keeping a keen eye on Pereira. I mean, Digne got a clean sheet and got my points anyway, so we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, I mean, another player I was disappointed with was I went for Sigurdsson, and I went for him over Dean in the end, even though I've been saying how great I think Dean is. I just got a bit worried about their defensive potential. I mean, I shouldn't have been worried about their defensive potential against Palace, so I'm going to kind of stick with it. But they lost Zuma, they lost Gay, so I'm just thinking they're not going to be as solid as last season. Dean offers a lot going forward, but I thought, actually they've got really good fixtures, and I kind of want who I think is going to be their most attacking player. And Sigurdsson looked good. Like he had a couple of shots. I think he could easily have had a goal and assist from the highlights I saw. I think he could have had a Dean nearly set him up for one. I think it was a good save. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed he came away from that game with nothing. I thought that's a good opening fixture for Everton.
Well, their one team seemed to have followed suit of pre-season, right? They kept loading clean sheets and couldn't score. But then can we judge it because it's Palace? I mean, if I'd have put any team down to not score, it would have been them.
Yeah.
That's why I went with Digne. That's why I trumped Pereira or virtually any other pick. Every time I tried to be clever and go move him to Callum Robinson or get an extra striker up, so I always came back to what am I doing? He's blatantly going to get a clean sheet game week 1, may get bonus, and then I'm already behind most of the crowd. So I did that. Although, interestingly, he was nowhere near Mr. Mina for the bonus. Absolutely smacked him.
He was your boy last year, wasn't he, Mina? Did you start with him?
Well, I wouldn't call him that. I bought him in... I bought him in for like 3 or 4 games instead of Digne, and I think he got like minus points in nearly every game. I'm pretty sure he got a yellow card in every game, and then might have got injured. And Digne scoring, braces and stuff. It was mad. Yeah,
I mean, next week Everton have got Watford. So if Watford play like they did against Brighton, then surely even Everton are going to be able to score against them. So I really want Martial, but I'm gonna keep faith with the players I've got, because I mean I could do Sigurdsson to Martial, but that just feels like a bit of a knee jerk. So I'm gonna keep Sigurdsson for now and save my transfer and think of another way to bring
That
Martial
is
in.
very, very conservative,
Oh, I know. I'm a new
But
man.
you picked Sigurdsson for more than one game, right?
Yeah, I mean last season I got, I had Sigurdsson for a few games and eventually got rid of him for Richarlison, and then Richarlison got sent off in the game I brought him in for. So I think Sigurdsson is just one of those players who I think you just need to show a bit of time with. Like he's such a good FPL option. Like, every year he's 150 points
He's
plus.
consistent. That's why I kind of almost didn't went with him, is because I didn't want to just cement that position down, because exactly that reason. I think if you have him, he's kind of a player you've got to keep pretty much season long, and in return you like really good points. But it's like I kind of like to have fun with those periphery players, because I'm pretty set on keeping my premiums. So I didn't go that route for largely that reason, that I just thought I want to try and come on and off people at form, which might can backfire, it can work, but it was more about just not wanting to use transfers around that position. Wanting to use transfers around that position rather than keep it. But I think, Sigurdsson's still going to
I
get
mean,
points.
in theory, this should be Sigurdsson's best season, because this is the year when he's had the best players around him. He's got Kane up front now. He's got, I think Iwobi's a really good purchase. I know he costs like 35 million, and he hasn't been that good at
That's nothing these days.
isn't he hasn't been that good at Arsenal. But I think he is kind of. I mean, it's Iwobi or Walcott.
Yeah, well,
Like,
Richarlison's playing on the right and Iwobi's going left, I think, with Sigurdsson in the hole and then Moyes Keane up top. And obviously, we've not seen what he can offer. So, it's to me, that's it's got potential, that line. Any team that with Sigurdsson in as a number 10 is
yeah,
got
exactly. So I think I
so,
think he is gonna have a good season. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with him, because as soon as I take him out, he'll do well. So I'm just gonna leave him, because I was thinking of doing the same with De Bruyne, and just just accepting that there's going to be some games when De Bruyne does play deep and might get one assist or something, but he over the season he will tick over. De Bruyne will tick his way over this season to 200 points.
Yeah, he said it before. I mean, he scored. Scored. He got an assist game week 1, so keeps up with that record. He'll be all right.
He'll just keep getting them, and he's not a player who you're probably ever going to captain, but he's going to bring you in a steady stream of points, and I think that's probably the same with
Well,
Sigurdsson.
also on what you said about Martial is we're away to Wolves and we struggled big time with Wolves last season. So I don't think it's the game to bring him in. I know Wolves didn't look great in the Leicester game, but they did keep a clean sheet. Let's not forget, and they're a very good team. So I think that they'll do better than Chelsea. There's no way they're going to get spanked 4-0, he says. So I mean, I wouldn't. Everton at home to Watford, Martial away to Wolves. I pick Sigurdsson all day.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking, and I'm gonna look at getting Martial into that Palace game, I think, the week after. I'm not sure how yet. Okay, last team then, Burnley v Southampton. I mean, my major takeaway from that is I expected Pope to get a clean sheet, and I expected him to get some bonus, and he made 3 saves, got a bonus, and got 8 points. It's exactly what I wanted. Like Burnley at home to any of the teams sort of around them. I just expect Pope to be getting 8 to 10 points.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not annoyed at myself because I still think he can look like he's a great keeper as he did before. But it's just, when you've got that game week 1 validation and you've got those points and you're just thinking, do you know what I mean? You've got those 8 from Pope, and I could have had that in my team. I had Pope for most of my drafts. But
I mean, the
great
next
option.
3 games are horrific.
Yeah, that's it. And I think Eaton will then start to catch him up. It's obviously not a game week 1 pick at all, but yeah, you're right, Pope. I mean, nothing suggests any different, right? He's gonna be a great option, and that's why I just think those 4.5s are great. We said about it. I mean, I don't see any evidence to say that they're not going to be so far.
No, I mean, you'd be kicking yourself if you went for Alisson, wouldn't you? And now you've got to use it.
Oh God, yeah, I had him in Sky, but everyone had him in Sky, and that was really bad. But
and loads of people are going to do Alisson to Adrian, and then in 4 or 5 weeks' time, they have to make another transfer because he's not playing. Like,
I wouldn't be touching that, to be honest.
No, definitely not. I think Alisson to Edison is. I think it's the most popular transfer this week, and I think it's probably the most sensible though.
Yeah. Did you say to Edison? Because you cut out there. Sorry.
Yeah, to Edison, Alisson to Edison. I mean, if you've started with Alisson, you're clearly backing a premium keeper. So
no, and they're going to use all their money, aren't they? It's the same in Sky. It's the most popular transfer this week as well. It's going to be across the fantasy games. I would have thought that would be the move that most people make. What else to take?
Anything to add on Burnley? I mean,
Well, I thought Chris would obviously do better than Barnes, but
yeah,
no, Barnes
I know.
reminded us that he is actually the better Premier League player, and Wood is
Unbelievable.
strictly for pre-season apparently. But Goodmanson looked decent, but I'm not going to be touching that. So yeah, I mean Southampton. I had Che Adams in a lot of my drafts, and I think he was unlucky maybe not to score. I don't know if you saw a couple of
Oh,
chances
did you?
early
Have
on.
you not got him? What do you have? Your Jota? You
Now
got
I've got
Jota?
Jota and King, haven't I? So
Yeah, yeah.
I actually ended up swapping um, Che Adams to Jota because I just thought he's a better pick long term. But as a result, I downgraded Walker to Zinchenko, and obviously Walker got the assist, so I'd have been more put, and that was like a last kind of minute move, so I did that. So I'd have more points, but I'm still happy having Jota in my team, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, Che Adams could have scored. I think there is still value in those 6 million strikers. I mean, Ings again. Yeah, he just validated why I was right not to pick him. I think subbed early again. I don't know. Che Adams looked like the one to get, and I think he will be valued at 6 million.
Yeah.
It's just Southampton were pretty dreadful, I think, in the second half. Redmond looked good though at times again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he'll be an option at some point. He's just so attacking.
I just don't trust Southampton to score goals. Like
I think they will, although they obviously
I
didn't.
don't really trust them to defend either. I don't know. They're a team I'm probably going to avoid for most of the season.
Seems pretty wise, to be honest, but I do think they will get goals under Ralph, and that's why they lost 3-0 to Burnley, is because although they didn't score them, they did actually try. You know, they didn't defend and they did come out, which, you know, Burnley aren't known for scoring goals. They're known for keeping it tight, and they managed to get 3 in this game. So that suggests to me that Southampton did give it a go, which is Ralph's style. So I do think they'll get goals.
I love that you're calling him Ralph. Like, yeah, my buddy
I can't
Ralph.
say his surname. That's my tactic. I just pick whatever pops up on the screen first and just go with that. Yeah, no, I'm not even going to try that. Embarrass myself.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's the roundup of the games. I mean, we probably won't follow this format every week. You know, we kind of mix it up, talk about the talking points and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a game week 1 roundup. I think it kind of worked.
Yeah, we've only got 1 week to go on, haven't we? So we kind of only got to talk about that week. As we move forward, there'll be, you know, underlying things that have been boiling over for 4 or 5 weeks and stuff. So it won't just be a game by game breakdown, I hope.
Yeah.
Unless we've got no material as, and then we'll just have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ever tune in and we're just going through the teams one by one, it means we've run out of ideas. So probably next to it, we'll be back and doing the same thing. But yeah, I mean, thanks for listening. We had 1,000 views, I think, or 1,000 listens last week to the podcast. So I mean, that's great. I mean, if we keep getting 1,000 views, then we'll keep doing them. Hopefully, you've enjoyed it. And yeah, good luck with game week 2. I mean, I'm just so happy it's back. I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's not the same without it, is it?
It's
not the same. And when you actually, you know, for me, I basically didn't get a captain point haul pretty much the whole of last season. So to get it game week 1, even if it wasn't the best captain,
yeah, decent start
on the first day, it's just like, yeah, thank God.
Decent starts for both of us. I mean, haven't been very maverick yet, but I assure you, at some point, we will both do something stupid.
Well, Yuki's probably already coming in, so I'm probably already going against my stick with King thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm probably going to bench Zinchenko for O'Connell, so that immediately.
You'll have Martial in your team because you'll start rising in price and you'll get itchy fingers and you'll just bin off all that advice about Sigurdsson and I'll see him lining up and then Wolves will beat us 2-0.
And then Everton will win like 6-0 and Sigurdsson will get all 6. Yeah, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, Luke.
No worries.
Thanks, everyone. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you guys.